See distributive justice. Most critics of the libertarian minimal state don't complain that it allows for too much government, they say that it allows for far too little. In particular, they claim that a more than minimal state is necessary in order to fulfill the requirements of distributive justice. The state, it is held by, for instance, Rawls and his followers, simply must engage in redistributive taxation in order to ensure that a fair distribution of wealth and income obtains in the society it governs. Nozick's answer to this objection constitutes his entitlement theory of justice. Talk about distributive justice is inherently misleading, Nozick argues, in that it seems to imply that there is some central authority who distributes to individuals shares of wealth and income that pre-exist the distribution, as if they had appeared like manna from heaven. Of course, this is not really the way such shares come into existence, or come to be distributed, at all. In fact, they come to be, and come to be held by the individuals who hold them, only through the scattered efforts and transactions of these innumerable individuals themselves, and these individuals' efforts and transactions give them a moral claim over these shares. Talk about the distribution of wealth covers this up, and unjustifiably biases most discussions of distributive justice in a socialist or egalitarian liberal direction. A more adequate theory of justice would, in Nozick's view, enumerate three principles of justice in holdings. The first would be a principle of justice in acquisition, that is, the appropriation of natural resources that no one has ever owned before. The best known such principle, some version of which Nozick seems to endorse, is the one enshrined in Locke's theory of property, according to which a person, being a self-owner, owns his labor, and by mixing his labor with a previously unknown part of the natural world, e.g. by whittling a stick found in a forest into a spear, thereby comes to own it. The second principle would be a principle of justice in transfer, governing the manner in which one might justly come to own something previously owned by another. Here Nozick endorses the principle that a transfer of holdings is just if and only if it is voluntary, a principle that would seem to follow from respect for a person's right to use the fruits or the exercise of his self-owned talents, abilities, and labor as he sees fit. The final principle would be a principle of justice in rectification, governing the proper means of setting right past injustices in acquisition and transfer. Anyone who got what he has in a manner consistent with these three principles would, Nozick says, accordingly be entitled to it for his having abided by these principles. No one has any grounds for complaint against him. This gives us Nozick's entitlement theory of distributive justice. A distribution of wealth obtaining in a society as a whole is a just distribution if everyone in that society is entitled to what he has, i.e. has gotten his holdings in accordance with the principles of acquisition, transfer, and rectification. And it is therefore just however equal or unequal it happens to be, and indeed however fair or unfair it might seem intuitively to be. Standard theories of distributive justice, Nozick says, are either a historical, end state or end result theories, requiring that the distribution of wealth in a society have a certain structure, e.g. an egalitarian structure regardless of how the distribution came about or how people got what they have, or they are historical theories requiring that the distribution fit a certain pattern reflecting such historical circumstances as who worked the hardest or who deserves the most. The entitlement theory of justice is historical yet unpatterned. The justice of a distribution is indeed determined by certain historical circumstances contrary to end-state theories, but it has nothing to do with fitting any pattern guaranteeing that those who work the hardest or are most deserving have the most shares. What matters is only that people get what they have in a manner consistent with the three principles of justice in holdings, and this is fully compatible with some people having much more than others, unlucky hard workers having less than lazier but luckier ones, morally repulsive individuals having higher incomes than saints, and so forth.